There are colleges that doesn't take a CAT score but takes a TANCET score in Tamil Nadu. So that's what the graph also projects. If instead of getting a 19 TANCET, get a 16 CAT, you can back that college. The colleges that gets ruled out happen to be the government colleges or the government aided colleges. All the private institutes offer you an MBA program, both a CAT and TANCET course. If you look at the pattern of this exam, you happen to get 5 sections. You think about business situation analysis, reading comprehension, quantitative ability, data sufficiency, and English usage. Hey folks, if you happen to be from Tamil Nadu and if you're aspiring to do an MBA, well, CAT and TANCET happen to be the two most prominent options that we have. But which one should you prepare for? Should it be for CAT? Should it be for TANCET? We'll get deeper into this topic. We'll have one discussion on how TANCET works, what pattern it is. We'll get all these details, and then we'll also talk about which exam should you focus on. Should it be for only one of these two or both of them, or if should you be preparing for other exams as well? It depends, right? So we'll have one discussion on the exam scale. We'll talk about the insights. We'll see the patterns, marks and stuff. And then we'll talk about the colleges that take CAT scores and then TANCET scores, the percentiles. And then we'll compare what score should you get. And then finally, we'll also have one discussion on the strategy. Which exam to focus more on, or should you be focusing on only one exam? So we'll get to know that. Now to begin with, the exam scale. If you look at the scale of these two exams, to begin with, TANCET is a state level test. So it's a state level entrance exam. You write TANCET, you apply for counseling in Anna University, you go there, you pick and choose your college, and then you do your MBA. But then you look at this number, somewhere around 22,000 people write TANCET every year. If you look at CAT, it's a national level entrance exam, and if you notice, roughly 3 lakh students write this exam every year. But then if you look at the numbers from Tamil Nadu, it is approximately 17,000 to 20,000. It varies year on year, but there is always a gap. There's a delta here. There are a bunch of people who write TANCET, do not write CAT. So we'll go to that later in the later part. Now, if you look at the pattern of this exam, you happen to get 5 sections. You think about business situation analysis, reading comprehension, quantitative ability, data sufficiency, and English usage. 20 questions each section. That's a total of 100 questions. You look at the pattern from the previous year, +1 for a right answer, minus 0.25 for a wrong answer. There is no marks deducted for unanswered questions. So you're looking at 100 marks total and 100 questions in 120 minutes. 2 hours, 120 minutes. On the contrary, when you look at CAT, it's still a 2-hour exam, 120 minutes, but the number of questions that you get is 68 and the number of sections is 3. Now 5 sections to 3 sections, is that better option? Typically, if I consolidate all of this, it falls under 3 sections, quant, logical and verbal, which is as same as your CAT's 3 sections, QA, DILR and VARC. Same. The same to same when it comes to syllabus, but the complexity at CAT is going to be relatively more. 68 questions to 120 minutes. Here, less than a minute for a question. There, a little more than a minute for a question. There, a little more than 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes a question. So that's one difference. But which one is still the best option? We'll get to that. Then when I talk about the PG courses that are offered, do I only get to do MBA? No. With TANCET, you get MBA, MCA, MTech, ME, MPlan, MArch, all these courses are available, but then the focus is comparison between CAT and TANCET. So we are focusing only on MBA. So if I look at the colleges that offer me an MBA program based on my TANCET scores, we happen to have a bunch of nice colleges, all these colleges, tier 1, tier 2 colleges that accept TANCET scores. Now, here comes the question. With CAT scores, do I get more options, or with TANCET scores, do I get more options? The answer is, it depends. Now, when I talk about CAT scores, out of the 10 that I just mentioned here, 8 of these colleges take CAT scores. Does it mean CAT has lesser scope? The answer is no. Now, when you write CAT, your scope of joining a B school goes outside Tamil Nadu as well. So there are obviously more colleges. The number of colleges that you can get into with a CAT score is way more than the number of colleges that you can get into with a TANCET score. Obviously, you are restricted within the state. That's there. But the colleges, the private colleges that you can get into are pretty much the same. The colleges that gets ruled out happen to be the government colleges or the government aided colleges. All the private institutes offer you an MBA program, both a CAT and TANCET course. So pretty much all the top colleges that you can get into with TANCET course, you can also get there with CAT, with an exception of the government institutes alone. So again, there is not much of a difference if we notice here. Now, after that, if I look at the percentile of CAT to TANCET is where there is some revelation here. There's a huge difference, delta that we are looking at. Now, let's say there is a college X. Now, I want to get into college X. What should I do to get here? If you want to get into college X by writing TANCET, if you can get to 90th percentile in TANCET, get 60 percentile in CAT, you can still get that college. So that's what the graph also projects. If instead of getting a 19 TANCET, get a 16 CAT, you can back that college. Similarly, a 95 to a 75 here, 70 here. Or when I say a 99.9, I can get the same college with 80. So the scoring pattern, despite they are different or the complexity, all the differences happen here. One huge takeaway that we see here is lesser percentile in CAT, I can still back that college. The X college that I am looking for 99.9 over there, I get an 80, 85 here. I am still getting that option in a better way. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? Again, is a question that we need to talk about. To give you one understanding about the scores based on the colleges that we just spoke, if you look here, to get an admit in PhD Institute of Management in Coimbatore, that's in Coimbatore, get 70 to 85 percentile in CAT, you get that. But then you have to get a 98 to 99 percentile in TANCET to back the same college. So the differences are quite drastic. For example, Great Lakes takes a CAT score, doesn't take a TANCET score. There are colleges that doesn't take a CAT score but takes a TANCET score in Tamil Nadu. So there is vice versa. Some take X, don't take Y. Some take Y, don't take X. So the difference is always going to be there. But on a broader note, if you look at it, you realize that, hey, I have to get slightly lesser scores, not have to. Even if you get slightly lesser scores in CAT, you still have a chance of grabbing it, right? I have to put in more effort to get bigger scores in TANCET, rather settle down for a moderate score. I am still looking at it. So that's how it is. The reason being that is CAT happens to be a national level exam. Obviously, the chances of getting a B school is greater now. You are looking at colleges in other states as well. Whereas Tamil Nadu is more focused on one particular state here now. So more people write, obviously you'll have to beat them and then get to a better score to get an admission in a college in this state. But that's the reason why there is quite a mismatch here between the scores of CAT to TANCET. So once again, the question in your head should be, okay, should I now prepare for CAT? Should I now prepare for TANCET? You will feel TANCET seems to be a better option because my competition is restricted to a state, pretty much despite the fact the number of people who appear for TANCET and CAT within the state happen to be the same. You still have to understand that the competition is more focused, it's more centric towards the state, which means you have to get better scores. But if you are thinking about, hey, I don't want to, it's not necessary that I do it in Tamil Nadu. I can even move out of the state and then do my MBA, then CAT happens to be there. In fact, I'm going to go slightly better and then say, keep CAT as your first focus. Focus on TANCET later. It has to be a backup. The transition will happen. The other reason being that is when you prepare for CAT, you are preparing for a slightly more complex exam now. I'm not saying TANCET is easy, but when I put them on a scale here, I would realize that TANCET is slightly easier than CAT. So here, my CAT scores are reflecting based on the complexity as well. So you prepare for CAT, we usually say the moment you prepare for CAT, you are literally prepared for any other competitive exams, for any B school now. So that's one advantage that you have. But then if you say, hey, the fee structure does make a difference, the answer is yes. Now, if you look at the fee structure with the college that you get with the TANCET score in Tamil Nadu, government colleges charge you less than a lakh. Your entire fee structure is less than a lakh with some considerable good return of investment. Some of those colleges give you 7 to 8, 9 lakhs per annum. So the return of investment here is great. When you look at that with CAT, compare it with CAT, the fee structure is going to be slightly more now, and the salary packages are even bigger. But then the return of investment falls on your plate to decide. Do I want to spend this much to get this or spend this much to get this? Falls on your plate for the decision. So there is no one who can say this is better or that is better. That is absolutely subjective. But if MBA is in your aspiration, if you are thinking about, okay, I'm going to do an MBA, that's going to be my goal. In that case, a strong recommendation that we usually say is prepare primarily for CAT. CAT has to be a go-to prep zone. Reason again, as we mentioned, it pretty much covers every syllabus that you need to cover for TANCET. With some small tweaks and adjustments, you are prepared for TANCET. Vice versa, prepare for TANCET, go to CAT. That adjustment is slightly tricky, in fact, even slightly difficult. So that's what the recommendation will always be. Primarily focus on CAT and prepare for it. And then after that, it is always nice to have a backup, especially when it comes to careers and academics. It is safe, it is good, it is highly recommended that we all have a backup. Right. So you write CAT, I don't want to jinx it. You write CAT or you write some other test, you get a good score, you get through into a B school, great, brilliant. We all hope that happens. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But let's say, God forbid, it doesn't work out. We flunk, something doesn't happen well that day, and then we miss out on it. You cannot wait for one more year to write this again, right? What should be the option? There should always be a backup. There is TANCET, there is NMAT, there is SNAP, there are other exams. But now the focus is between these two. So TANCET, if you have been thinking about TANCET for a long time, the recommendation will always be switch to CAT, have this as well. Don't stick to only one. That has been the entire idea of the video, right? What should you prepare for? You prepare for both. You don't prepare for one alone. You don't say I'll write only CAT. You don't say I'll write only TANCET. You prepare for CAT and then transition towards TANCET. That has to be the flow. After that, apply to colleges that accept both scores, CAT and TANCET scores. Apply to both colleges. Just simply apply it and then see where it takes you. And then use CAT for direct application, and with TANCET scores, you go through Anna University counseling. That goes in its own path. The moment you write the exam, they will release the cutoff percentiles for each colleges, and then you can see which college that you are eligible for. You attend the counseling and you get it done. Whereas you can apply to these colleges directly with the CAT score. You apply them on their website, you go there and then you do it. So there are ways to do it. But in a nutshell, CAT versus TANCET, which is better? We don't say this is better than that, but obviously the better resolution will be you prepare for CAT and then transition towards TANCET. You write both, you take both scores, whichever college that you are applying for, apply with both scores and then see which lands you a better deal and then take that. Remember, planning is more important than your execution. While begin is half done. Now start planning your career towards, start planning towards your MBA. Now start planning towards your preparation for an MBA. Prepare for CAT, TANCET, whatever it is. Put in all your heart and soul in it and do great. All the best.